Hey guys, welcome to the DJ George Jett Show. Did I get that right? Probably not. The George Jett Show. We have our special guest today is Jessica Lamb. Jessica Lamb is a DJ here in South Florida, and I've been wanting to interview her for a long time. And let's give a nice round of applause to Jessica.
I like that intro.
I know.
Awesome. That was great.
Right. So Jess, wow, I've always wanted to get you on the show to talk about, the DJ stuff and all that stuff. You being a girl DJ, it's one of those things where like that's cool. I mean, that's just beyond cool. And there's just not enough girl DJs.
Oh, I'm ready to blow your mind even more in a second. So.
Well, you are local to me. You're here in 305-954, Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Miami area. And you belong to a lot of the groups that I do, South Florida Music Association, South Florida DJ.
DJ, yes,
Help
association. SFDJ. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
SFDJA, yeah. The mouthful, I know.
Right. Also DPR and a couple of other things too.
Right.
We haven't met in person yet.
Well, we had COVID in the middle of all this, so it was kind of hard to get together.
Well, that is true. So we're going to talk about a little bit about everything. We're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about how to keep current, older DJs, meaning past the age of 30, like what they like and all that stuff, how to keep with the new clientele or the younger clientele. We're going to talk a little bit about everything, maybe a little bit about gear and all that stuff. So first thing, tell me about your name, JesiMixx.
All right. So JesiMixx is a fun name. So I used to go by DJ JC back in the 1990s, early 2000s, at the turn of the century. I work a lot with Now you've got me mixed up. let's just say the LGBTQ plus IA, community.
Right.
Anyhow, and so back in the day, I did the youth proms for some of these kids who couldn't have youth proms. They couldn't go with their significant others to their own youth proms in their own schools.
Okay.
Only till recently, in the last 5 to 10 years, that we started to see change where schools are opening up to these kids. So I used to work with Pride Lines Youth Services. It's a local place that supports these kids when they got no place else to go. And we'd give them a youth prom every year and in around June or July. So I was DJing one of these youth proms and a kid, knowing me by Jessica, because I was one of their group facilitators. I'd come in there and have, groups with them and talk and have them share their stories. And they loved the music I'd bring. And that's how I used to keep current, was basically working with these kids. I'd keep current. So one kid walks up to me. His name was Ricky, and who's a school teacher now, but he was just a little bloke in high school at the time.
Right.
And he says, "Yo, Miss Jessica, you really can mix it up. You're like Miss JesiMixx." and in that moment, I mean, I became so enamored with just, it was like one of those things that here I am doing something that I was passionate about, to kids who I know really were appreciative of it. And then they gave me the name JesiMixx, and it stuck, and I kept it. So
I like it.
Yeah.
And now you work a lot with kids. That's one thing that I've noticed about your social media postings. That is a unique talent to work with kids. And a lot of DJs can't do that.
Now, a lot of DJs claim to do that and go there. And, most parents aren't the wiser that they're not really working with the kids, but the kids are like, what a lame DJ most of the time. So
Right. So how do you keep current to their music, and how do you work with the kids?
Well, being a parent, number one, first and foremost, keeps me current. So,
Okay.
having children around me in my life allows me to, because I'm that Dia in my family, Dia Jessica, who loves music. I've been in this industry since the 1990s. I've been a musician for as long as I've been alive, essentially. So I fell in love with music at a very young age of 4 to 5 years old, and played an instrument through junior high and high school, played in a rock band in the 1980s, produced a music album in the 1990s. So, just being a part of this world kept me relevant. And so some of that, kids are really fascinated by, oh my gosh, you produced a music album. Oh my gosh, you've been on TV, you've done a radio program. And it allows an open door for me to really have conversations with them. And I'll sometimes ask them, what do you like to listen to? What do you want to do? And I put myself at their level,
Right.
so I don't consider myself like the authoritative person on all things music. I
Right.
like to incorporate in what they love and what they do. And so this is how I try to stay relevant and stay there. So I could be DJ grandma at the age of 80 in another 20, 30 years. And I hope I can still stay relevant at that point
Right.
in
And you can
time.
still stay
So,
relevant. Now, having kids, obviously, you could get suggestions like, hey, mom, this is the latest trend or this is the latest dance.
oh, but sometimes they don't even know what they want. But
They don't even know.
I'll tell you what, a lot of kids love the classics, what I've come to find out. So some of
Okay.
the songs from like the 1970s and 80s that are like your fun party songs, they know it. When you go YMCA, they all want to do that with you and such.
Right.
The Electric Shuffle is kind of old school at this point. But when they introduced the Macarena in one of these Hotel Transylvania movies, now I have all these kids who are like, doing all the
Right.
Macarena stuff.
Right.
So it's really interesting. And
Right. So,
what was
so
it? The Poppy Troll movie? The Trolls movie introduced a lot of like classic Earth, Wind, and Fire and that sort of thing. So kids are familiar. And of course, their popular music today samples it all. So listen to the new Lizzo song, and you have an old Mariah Carey tune sort of sampled in, which is also a sample tune from back in the 70s with Emotions, right? So
correct.
it's
So it's
crazy.
a copy of a copy, right? A
Of a
sample of a
copy.
sample.
Exactly.
Right. So a lot of kids now and a lot of teens listen to or watch TikTok a lot, and they're bringing up a lot of older songs in their video that they've never heard, but all of a sudden it's one of those things where you said, okay, you get a cat video, you record a funny cat video, then you go into their library and you select a song, and this person that's creating this video has no clue what this music is, but they just used it for their cat video. And then all of a sudden, this cat video blows up the
It
internet
was viral.
and it goes viral. And now, just because that song is attached to that cat video, that song is now like exposed yet
Yeah,
again. And
absolutely.
the kids have now associated with that cat video, which is
Somewhat,
fine.
because they only take it in, like, minuscule sort of
Pieces.
portions. So
Yeah.
you have, for example, my granddaughter loved the song Dark Horse, right? She heard,
Okay.
a little piece of the song that she saw in a TikTok video, loved it, but when I gave her the whole song, she's like, "What's this song? I don't recognize
I
this
don't
song."
recognize it.
Un
But when it got
until
to
it
that
came to
part,
that part, she's like, "Oh, now I recognize it," kind of a situation. So,
right.
so when it comes to mixing this music into your sets with these kids, you've got to keep that in mind. So that's where you're putting in your hot cues and figuring out where in the song you want to mix it in
Mix
that
it
they
in.
recognize it and know it. Because if you lose them, you lost them right from the very beginning. You got to give them from the chorus sometimes.
Right. So I guess that's the way the new generation is listening to music. And obviously, radio is not something they're really listening to anymore. Now they have their own Spotify channels and their own Apple Music,
Oh no, it's crazy.
TikTok
I
videos.
of course I'm a Sirius XM listener. Been for many many decades at this point since we
Came
first
out.
had satellite radio. I had satellite radio in my car. But there's TikTok radio now, and so when my granddaughter sees TikTok on the screen, she's like, "Oh, I want to hear that station."
That's it.
But most of it's not appropriate for her to hear anyway, so I won't play
Right.
it.
Right. Because it's got everything in. Now that you mentioned that, music that's not appropriate, I used to do a lot of 15, 16s, also school proms, high school proms. And I stopped. The last one I did was a year prior to COVID hitting. The reason I stopped, I've been doing the same school for almost 6 years. One of the years I couldn't do, so I sent another DJ, and he worked out great, which was nice. But what I've noticed was that I had on my website a form request for the kids to go in and request songs. And every year I would peg all of the songs that they wanted to hear, and it was a success. Now, when it started getting onto the fifth, almost the last and the year prior, the music was just almost 80% dirty. I sent the list. It was 360 something songs that I had gotten. And I sent it to the teacher and I said, this is what they're requesting. What are
Yeah,
we going to do about this?
yeah. Well,
And she said, well,
Give it to them anyway.
well,
That's
that's the thing. That's the thing, because since at that point I was school board approved for,
yeah,
um, as a vendor, I have to be careful what I do.
sure.
And not only that, I know they know the bad words. And I know the teachers know the bad words. And
You'll be playing the clean version. They're singing along to it at the event, and they're giving you the bad words
they're
right there on the
giving you the
dance
bad
floor.
words anyway. But my thing was, since they have cell phones, now they're recording themselves singing it.
Sure.
So now they go in and record it. They put it on social media. And the parent's going to say, why are you doing this? And then they're not going to listen to the DJ playing the right song and then them singing the bad words. How do you get around with this? How do you get around?
I sometimes as a DJ and as the person who's providing the music, I feel uncomfortable with some of the music that they're telling me, go ahead and play it. I've had parents,
Yeah.
I'll warn them, the language, and forget the language. You can say the S word and the F word all you want. It's the content.
It's the content
that's in there. That do you want a song that has this kind of content in it?
Right.
And I go back and listen. I hate to sound like my grandmother, where music was better in my days. But even the dirty stuff that we used to listen to,
Yeah.
even like when I listen to NWA, which is all very sort of,
it's actually clean now.
it's to today's standards. Yes, it's kind
It
of
is clean because
right.
they're just using the bad words, but they're not saying anything bad.
Right, and a lot of times it was just more about social justice, or some sort of
They have a
positive
message. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's hence the Grandmaster Flash song, The Message, right?
Right.
But, so that it's tough to kind of navigate around those. So what I try to do is I find sort of alternative. Now, a lot of that sort of music, they are sampling from older songs, so I might introduce. So I'll give you a snippet of that song, introduce an older song with that sample. I'm looking for things that I can kind of put together with
Okay.
it. Fortunately, the younger kids, when we're talking about, your 7 to 12-year-olds, it's easy to kind of manage that content because they'll listen to anything. Like I was mentioning earlier, the new Trolls movie features, music from Earth, Wind, and Fire, and
Right, but
then
right, but I'm talking about current music, not classics, not classics.
right. Well, but
Because
you have these people who are remixing them and kind of putting it into today's,
right. But if they ask you for specific, like, specific hip hop music,
right,
it's
tough. It's tough. And then a lot of times it's about these little kids who want to be relevant, who want to be cool, that want to play this music, like listen to the music that's in my party. They may not even like it. They may not even care for it.
Yeah.
But they want to play it because they want to be, they're kind of pressured into it.
Right.
That's where I sit down with them before a party. I usually like to meet with my clients and talk to them a little bit, discuss musical content, really depending what it is. If I'm doing a kids program that's for kids between 7 and 12 years old, it's usually an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours max that I'm doing anything in their parties.
Right.
And most of the time I'm playing games with them. So
right.
I'm
So
bringing
the
out
music is not as important because they're not
the
going to get
music
to
is
that
not right there up forward because I'm the one who's sort of narrating through it. So,
Got it.
I'm on a microphone, kind of like, when I used to DJ, out, to family events, most of the times I'm trying to engage with the crowd. So it's a lot of me emceeing. And I'm one of those DJs who's not afraid to step away from my booth and walk to the front and be
Which
front
is
and
good.
center.
Right.
So, I don't stick behind my board.
I've seen you with your little headphone and your little lav thing that I guess you used to have that or still have that.
I still have that. That little piece is my connection to the audience.
Right.
So if I feel that something is not going right, then I'm on that microphone and I'm directing and I'm moving forward.
Right.
And sometimes I'm mixing out of songs and moving in and out of music. So yeah.
Right. That's also my style when I work with a younger crowd.
Correct.
I'm there on the, in front of the booth or, not on the dance floor, but in front of the booth, either, playing a game or doing some sort of something that's interactive, speaking with them in order for them to enjoy. Now, I don't take it to your level where we're doing games and all that stuff because I'm not a kids DJ. That's not what I do. I normally do 21 and over. But when I did the 15s and I did some 14s and 13s, then that would be the way. But, the music was a lot cleaner. we had a lot of access to clean music and positive music, and that was great. That's why I segue into getting old as a DJ, but staying relevant to the clientele, because now we're in our some are in our 40s, 50s, and some DJs are in their 60s, and they're still trying to mingle with a younger generation. I've had 2 DJs that retired because they just don't feel comfortable.
They can't interact. They don't relate. So
They don't
there's a
relate,
disconnect.
and the funny thing is that they don't see themselves. They see themselves as a father figure now when they're DJing, and I'm getting to that time too. Especially now that I grew up my
As the
grays
grays are coming in.
as you, but
I
you
know,
look beautiful
thank
with
you.
it, right? But I still stay relevant because I just don't. I don't refer back to that old music. I want to stay current. So I've noticed that a lot of older generation DJs past 40 are having lots of trouble with that. And what they're saying is, well, the music today sucks. Well, that can go on generation and generation and generation.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
your mom used to say it, and if you go back, whatever, it always goes to the same thing. I've had a lot of issues with that our DJs are quitting.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just
I
don't
mean,
like the new music.
it's hard to kind of, really listen to the music today
Yeah.
because, like you're saying, it's just the content matter is not all there. And creatively speaking, as a musician myself, I don't see a whole lot of originality in there. And what was I watching recently? The Kennedy's honors. So
Okay.
where you honor people in the arts and such. And so I was watching them honor Joni Mitchell. I was watching them honor, Carole King, and I was watching Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney and
Right.
Lionel Richie even. And then I think to myself, what would this award show look like in 20
In 20
years?
years.
We're giving it to Cardi B, we're giving it
Lizzo.
to Lizzo. And I think to myself, is this the same caliber of music?
No, it's
I don't
not.
I don't believe it, but the kids don't really know any better. So,
They don't know any better.
is it lack of education in some cases? Is it because of the TikTok generations where they're only getting this much of the music and not this?
It's a lot of things, and I was going to make a video on this, on my logical view on why things have changed. I mean, it makes sense to me, but I'll be an hour talking about it.
Sure.
I just say you got to keep current. You can't stay old school unless you want to cater to the old school crowd.
Yeah. Most of what happened really is the destruction, if you will, of the music store. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the music store anymore. I think to myself, okay, vinyl is making this comeback. People want to buy vinyl albums, right?
Yeah.
But we live in a very singles dominated market. And what really destroyed the music store was the singles dominated market.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you got rid of singles in the stores, people weren't shopping anymore. And if they could go to iTunes, it wasn't even iTunes, it was Napster back then, where you can get it for free even.
Yeah.
And you download the songs and you're getting your songs there. Why are you going to the music store to buy it?
Right.
And so there was a whole lot of pushback on all that. But that sort of struggle with streaming services and such, this is the kind of struggle right now that the DJs are going through. Because why am I going to hire somebody for $1,000 a night when I can just put a really good Spotify playlist on good speakers?
Right. Right. And a lot of sorry to interrupt you, but a lot of clients now give you a list of Spotify or give you a list of whatever music, and it's predetermined on what you're going to be playing. And again, I speak with other DJs that are personal friends of mine, and they always say they sent me a Spotify list, and I go, great, play from it. He goes, the music sucks. I go, yeah, that's because you're old.
They just made your job easier for you.
Well,
there you go.
They did. But the fact that the first thing they say, I would have said, great, I can work with it. No, they say the music sucks.
Yeah. No,
it doesn't matter. That's what they want.
I like to meet with my clients, get to know them, know what they like, what they listen to, and what they expect. Whatever that is. Listen, the bottom line is I work for you. If I'm going to come paint your house, I'm going to tell you I like the color gray, but I like the color pink.
And I'm going to paint it pink.
I'm going to paint it pink because that's what you paid me for. I'll give you my opinion, But ultimately, if you're paying me to paint it pink, I'm going to do it. Same thing as a DJ. If this is what you want to hear. Now, I'm
I
multi-genre. I don't stick to just one genre. I'm multi-genre, so I go with whatever, the crowd is responding to.
Right. I just think that the DJs really need to embrace the newer music and not compare it to another thing. It's kind of like saying you know, like if I ask you, I don't know, what's your favorite pizza place? Are you a pizza person?
I'm a pizza person. They closed down the pizza places I like. So
Right.
but
So now every time you go to another pizza place, you're like comparing it to the old pizza place, and you're like, it's
sure.
not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same.
But if you want to eat, you got to buy
But
the
you
pizza that's there.
right, and that's my point. And you're gonna have to start liking this new, style or whatever.
Well, you don't have to like it, essentially.
You don't have
So,
to like it. You have to
you
play
can
it.
you can work somewhere and not like your job, but you got to find something that you do like about it so you can enjoy it. That's what I always say. Find something that you do love in what you do,
Yeah.
and hold on to that,
Right.
because it's not going to be enjoyable every time, and you're not going to be playing music that you like all the time. I cringe with a lot of the hip hop music, but I know that's what the crowd wants to hear. I'm going to play it for them. And you
Right.
know what? I find something in there that I enjoy, whether it's a bass beat, whether it's a kick drum, whatever it is, and I have fun. But the way I see it is if DJ's having fun, everyone's having fun.
Correct.
In most cases, unless you're a DJ who's just oblivious to the crowd and you're just in your own little bubble.
Pricing, DJ pricing. You want to talk?
Yeah,
Want to talk? Let's talk about that a little bit.
sure.
Local
So,
DJ pricing. As you know, I asked a question or chimed in on one of the
yeah,
forums,
on one of the groups, yeah.
right? And why can't? I mean, my thing is, why can't people just be honest and just say, "This is what I make"?
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I tell people. People ask me, "What do you make?" I tell them exactly what I make,
yeah,
and
well,
and I
right.
don't. And it's not a. Is it a thing because everybody's trying to beat somebody? Uh,
It's sometimes I feel like it because it's such a competitive market, especially for somebody like myself.
yeah.
You know, most places don't wanna hire a girl DJ. They don't
What?
see that that's I'm an older D unless I was 20 something hot, with beautiful blonde and big breasts or something, where I look good behind it. I don't even have to be a good DJ, I just have to look good behind
Wow.
the thing.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Wow.
hiring right now,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But somebody who's seasoned like myself, who's a little older, who's allowing the grays to show, is having a hard time getting those gigs, let alone getting paid what I know that I'm worth. So I've been doing this as my primary source of income for 10 years.
Right.
And I'm having such a hard time competing right now with everybody else who's pricing way below what they should be
Well,
pricing. And it's,
right. And this is one of the things that I'm saying. The DJ pricing will never go up. It's always going to go down.
yeah, well,
It is. It
it's
is.
going to
It,
fluctuate
it,
depending on what.
it,
It's not
it,
something
it,
that's
it,
regulated. So,
it's not regulated, but it's not controlled. And the reason I say it'll never go up unless you're something unique, like you said, and unless you're offering something that other DJs are not offering. Then yes, if you're actually adding a feature to what you're doing, either whatever it might be, then you can
no, and then
upsell that.
the question is whether or not the client sees the value in that. So,
That's the other. Yeah.
that's the other piece, and it's about the education of the to that client. But the bottom line is I'm losing out jobs to, everything is going up. Inflation is going up. I literally bought, a box of cookies at the grocery store, a couple weeks ago. And when it was used to be filled from top to bottom with cookies, I opened it up and
Now
like
it's got
half
little
the pack,
bumpers on each side.
it got bumpers and it's like half the cookies are in there
Yeah, you're
and I
missing.
still
You're
paid the
missing
same
at
thing.
least 8
I'm
cookies.
missing products. So that's what we
Yeah,
call shrink. That's
shrink it.
shrinkflation
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
happening. So between shrinkflation and inflation and gas prices going up,
So,
it's hard for me,
so,
to get out there.
so the shrinkflation that you're bringing up, I did shrinkflation on my services as well.
I did too. So I'm not bringing out the lights for you. So
Right.
that's an
Exactly.
that's an
Exactly.
add-on. So
I,
but
you
then
know,
I don't want to sell my hourly rate at $50 an hour, when I
it,
know I'm worth three times that. So,
right. 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 But
you know,
like I always say, you have to put everything in perspective.
right.
Unfortunately, the DJ price is not going to go above what it is now. And if it does, it's only going to go increase a little bit, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of DJs still making the same amount of money they were in the 90s. It's kind of like, what do you call that? I don't even remember now. The
Minimum wage.
minimum wage. It hasn't changed in what, 10 years? It's the
Well, it
same
has.
amount. It
I
has
mean, I was paying $3. I was being paid $3.15 when I first started working
in the
back in
80s.
the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Now,
from the
now
90s, right.
minimum wage now is about $9. I don't think it's so much the older DJs in the market charging less. I think it's actually the newer DJs that are in the
Well,
market
of
charging less.
course, and
And so,
but
and
that's
basically every kid aspires. I know because all my nephews and my nieces want to be a DJ. They want me to teach them. I teach DJ classes. I used to teach it at Sam Ash,
mm,
and every DJ aspires to go out there and do their thing, and they're willing to go out there just to get the break and just to get the shot for $25 an hour, $50 an hour, or for free. In some cases, I'll do it just to get to the exposure.
I get
I
it,
don't think
and
you
we're
should
and
ever.
we're always going to have that. We're always going to have that because the equipment is cheaper, the music is cheap to get, everything is cheaper to get. So you're always going to get the entry level DJ coming in, and if you're talking about a high school kid making $50 an hour without an education, that's a lot of money for him.
Absolutely.
So, he can charge $50, $60, $70, $80. He can charge $100. He's young. He's ambitious. He's got the flyers. He's got the videos. He's got the TikTok. He's got the advertisement. And he's got everything. And he is going to make that money. And he's going to undercut you.
But
And
what they don't have that, like my company has, is the general liability insurance. The
Right.
high-end equipment,
Right.
because they got the entry-level equipment.
But the client's not looking for that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely, you're right.
So
That's the biggest challenge there.
exactly. So
The other thing is
transparent.
transparency and pricing is another thing that's an issue.
Yeah.
I'm very transparent. Go to my website, and if you go to my website and you see what we offer, all my prices are listed right there on my website.
Yeah.
Most DJs, you go to their site, call me for pricing in every scenario. I believe in being transparent. Here's what I charge. Here's what I also say. Even though my website says this price, doesn't mean I won't negotiate the price with you.
Right.
Tell me what your budget is. I'll work with you within reason, of course.
Right. Right.
So
the younger DJs that I talk to are not complaining about pricing. They're very happy with what they're at.
Because most of them are still living at home, not paying a mortgage or a car payment for that matter.
Right.
But it's people like myself who's been making a living at it for 10 years, who's struggling. I'm literally struggling right now.
You got to pivot. You got to pivot.
So, and I have, which is why I'm doing more online platform stuff. I'm teaching, I'm doing different things. So yes, absolutely. And during the pandemic, I had to pivot. And I actually put out a video about how entertainers could pivot during the pandemic. So
we had a pre-COVID right at the beginning. I mean, like before it was announced, but it was like the first month, and everybody was freaking out. And it's funny because I recorded that video with a bunch of DJs. I
was on that
you
call.
Were on it. Yes,
I was one of those. Yes.
Yes. And we were a lot of people were freaking out, and we didn't know what to expect. And it's funny how I watched it the other day and I reflected back. Where I was jumping on this guy. It's like, well, as soon as COVID finishes, I'm going to give everybody a discount. And I'm like, why would you do that? It's like, so we were so afraid of it. And we figured, okay, everyone's going to lower the price. It's now going to become a standard where the pricing is lower. Because pre-COVID, now, okay, we used to make $400. Now we're going to charge $200. And we're all going to be happy that we're making $200 on a gig. And now that's going to become a standard. So right after COVID, yes, I slowed down. I didn't work. I pivoted to other stuff. And when I came back, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to give people just a little bit of a break. I gave them a break. But then after a couple of months, I raised the price a little bit. I raised it 3 times, and I'm back to where it was before. And then I said, I'm going to raise it a 4th time. And now I'm going to go higher than I was before. And I'm going to just change my format.
Well, I tried to increase my pricing recently, and it's killing my business. I'm going to have to go back.
You got to step back.
I'm going to have to step back.
Now,
but what I do is that I don't know that many DJs do this. I do a lot. I know a lot of event planners do, because I do event planning work as well.
Okay.
On the bottom line, I charge what's called an administrative service fee.
Gotcha.
So, and that service fee is basically what pays for my insurance, my office, this beautiful little space behind me here with all my music equipment. So that little, what I used to charge a 4%. Now I'm charging twice that amount, an 8% service charge off the bottom line. And that's where my gas is being compensated,
That's
tolls
exactly
that,
what I did.
so
I brought it up very little. I did 5%, then I went up a little bit,
exactly what I
and
did.
then and I'm right at that 9-ish, 10-ish percent. It's not a lot of cash, but it is a higher price.
No, but
And
that extra $40 that you might make on that bottom line is gonna
yes,
fill up your gas tank
it
that you
is.
need.
It is. And it's also, like you said, that $40 or $50 or $35, depending on what package and what it is, that $30 you might lose a job because you're $30 more than that other DJ. And
Yeah.
then, my friend John, if he's watching today, he's going to say, well, that's because you didn't never show the value to the client. I'm like, listen, I can't add more value already than what I do.
No, that's why people shop in Walmart and Target because,
Right. They don't care.
the clothes there just, or we'll go to Marshalls, or we'll
Right.
go to, I don't care if
The
it's
pair of blue jeans. What does
it's
it
a
matter if
pair,
you got them at
yeah.
Target, at
It says
Marshalls?
Levi's on there, and whether it's got a perfect stitching or not, I don't care as long as there's no holes in it. Or if
Exactly.
there's a hole in there, it's fashionable. So,
Right.
but
You
yeah,
could start
the
a trend.
client,
Yeah.
when we're living in a world right now that is hurting,
Mm.
we're in the midst of higher inflation and higher gas prices, and we're all cutting back in different places.
Yeah.
People are investigating that and are open to exploring less expensive venues.
I say, if you're working at venues, either bars, lounges, or clubs, not really clubs, because most of the DJs are not really club DJs, and there's not that many clubs available anyway. But lounges, bars, maybe restaurants or whatever. A lot of DJs are making their living off of that, and I'm referring to those DJs, not the DJs like you that specialize in mobile DJs that work specifically with kids or with other corporate events.
No, I do costume characters too, so I do costume
Exactly.
character work.
Right. And you can't include that for free, obviously. But
No, of course not.
we'll get to that. So what I always say is that you have to add value to yourself. You have to have items to upsell, for example, your costume. Upsell that you interact with the kids.
Right.
These are the things that you need to do to add value to yourself. So you can say, hey, my price is, let's say, $50 an hour for me as a DJ. But if you want me to dress up with this character and you want me to do these games, it's going to be an extra $150. Is that worth it to you? And if they do, they say, okay, great.
Honestly, I'm gonna do it anyway. If they're
Oh,
gonna pay
really?
me, yeah, if they're gonna pay me, and my rate is 175 an hour.
Okay.
That's really
Okay.
where I put it.
Okay.
I used to charge 250 an hour, but
Right.
recently I went back to 175. But
Right.
so 175, I go out there, and if it means I need to go out there into the crowd and play games with the kids, I'm gonna do it. If I'm bringing a costume character, I'm charging twice that. So
Right.
and I justify that cost because you see a puppet behind me, I'll take that puppet and I do
I saw
puppet
that too.
things
Yeah.
with them, and so I love that, and I get down to the kids level and we do fun things, and I'm
The-
gonna get if I'm selling you me,
you're in
I'm
more
giving you
of
all of me.
you are in a unique situation and service, because you're providing a service that you don't have 4,000 people doing the same thing you are in the state or in the city.
Yeah.
But the average DJ that does not do any of what you do, that all they do is bring speakers, lights, music, and that's it, and a microphone. There's
Right.
400,000 of them in Dade and Broward and probably South Florida. There's just
Yeah.
5 DJs or more per mile in South Florida. So those guys are the ones that are on top of each other and killing each other and stepping on each other. And that's
Yeah.
why the price will never, ever change. It just won't go up.
Unless I decide to move out of this market, that's where I'm
No,
gonna be.
I think I think you are a unique person that does a unique service. And I'm sure you have competitors, but you are yourself. You do many, many things. And that's what I always say to DJs. Add something else to what you do. Don't just be a DJ. Anybody can be a DJ, you know. And
I know that by teaching these kids, most kids think it's about just hitting a play
hit a button.
And and actually, in some cases, if you've got like iDJ that has like a program built in for like an autoplay,
Yeah.
you can hit play and it'll mix it for you in
Right,
some cases.
Right. And again, a lot of the kids don't care that it's beat mixed. That's another thing that I hear old DJs talking about. Beat mixing is not an issue.
I have been DJing since the 1990s, and I'll tell you, I train wreck all the time.
Sure.
And I always think to myself, I did horrible. But the end of my set, because of the music I played, people walk up to me and tell me how wonderful the music was, how much they enjoyed themselves. And I'm like, and I'm all worried that I train wrecked one song between one to the other, you know?
I think I think it's mostly an ego thing, and it comes from the old DJs. Oh, you can't be a DJ if you don't know how to beat mix, or you got to be flawless, and you got to do harmonics and do this, and it's like, cut it out, man. Your average 20-year-old doesn't know anything about that.
No, exactly. I'm at my best essentially when I throw all that out the window and I just interact
with the client.
Correct. Whether I beat matched perfectly between two songs or the other. When I learn to let that go in my sets is when I have my best sets.
Right.
And so, it's getting out of my own brain, and then that fear, there's another DJ out there listening and he's paying attention to that moment. I don't hit that beat exactly where I need to hit play,
right.
So, and that's going in my head. Is there another DJ out there being critical of me, kind of a feeling.
Right.
But when I can let
sorry
those
about that. I was looking down.
it.
John was actually texting me right now.
And a lot of times it's improv for me.
Yeah.
It's just going with the flow and being out there. I have to be a comedian sometimes and find the humor in things and bring it out. If you can make a crowd laugh or cry or feel something, you're going to be a memorable DJ. And that's whether or not you're the perfect DJ up there, mixing all the perfect beats and putting all the perfect songs. If you can instill, evoke some sort of emotion, that's what's going to be memorable. And that's what they're going to enjoy the most.
I agree. Is there any other topics or anything you want to touch up on before we wrap it up? Because I think we spoke a lot about what we needed to talk about today.
Yeah. Well, here's where I'll blow your mind. I'll come out right here with you right here. And most people don't know this about me. So, one of my pet peeves essentially is I work in this LGBTQ plus IA community.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll look for people outside of the community to come work their events. I get upset sometimes when I don't work events, that I get passed up on a job opportunity to somebody who is outside of my own community.
Okay.
And that sometimes hurts. So, when we talk about guy DJs and female DJs, I have a very unique perspective because I was a guy DJ.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm transgender, and I came out in the 1990s, but I was a DJ through most of the 90s and early into the 2000s. I didn't start my transition until about 1997, 98. So I really literally saw the difference between what a guy DJ would do and what a woman DJ would do. And when I started transition into that female DJ role, the gigs were not coming. They were a lot more limited for me unless I was trying to be sexy, and then I might be able to get the gig. So it's really interesting to see.
It is interesting, and that's a great topic, and I think we should definitely talk about that in an episode and talk about that, because I have a couple of friends that are also in the same situation that get passed because, for whatever reason. And it doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, me being a guy, I always say, if you're a girl DJ, regardless if you're trans or not, to me, it's a benefit. It's a benefit. And I don't mean it in the word that, oh, well, I'm going to, I'll be all sexy with big boobs and all that. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, yes, that adds to it because that is a value added things. But being a girl DJ is something that it's very unique. Right? There's not a lot of them. And I know I know girl DJs that she has everything. She's good looking, dresses well, mixes well, interacts well, but she's charging the same price as a guy.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right. I think she should charge a lot more because she's a unique person.
Specialized, exactly.
And specializing, and there's
most people don't realize when they hire me, they're hiring a trans. I don't go out and advertise this ever, that I'm transgender.
I didn't know.
You can, and I usually, I don't get clocked in many cases, unless you go Google Jessica
I'm pretty
Lange,
good at that. at that, but I didn't clock you.
You'll see that
all.
I've been on like Larry King and Ricky Lake, Don Francisco Presente. I've been on all these shows as a trans woman out there, talking about these topics.
I love you more now.
And so because it's not the thing. You're not hiring me because I'm a transgender person, but yeah, that is a unique niche for me.
Absolutely.
That, okay, you got somebody. I remember when Caitlyn Jenner came out and I was doing a gig and I can hear the moms in the other room talking about Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah. And like, little do you know that the person working for you right now, giving you music, is transgender herself.
Wow. I never knew that.
And it was a pretty amazing time for me to really kind of be a part of that. So yeah, and I sometimes wonder that if people do find out this about me, whether I'll lose the gig because of it, especially now, that we're seeing so much,
Yeah. If they can't tell, they probably don't. If they know, who knows? You never know. I mean, politics now, they're kind of iffy right now. So,
breaks my heart.
And it's kind of sad that you have to like keep it hush hush. You know what I mean? I mean, it just makes no sense. And the fact that you brought that up, I have a gay DJ, that they tried a straight DJ because they wanted to mix things up.
There you go.
So this is a DJ that's been around for a long time in that community, and they're like, let's bring in a straight DJ just to mix things up.
There you go. So why not? It's some diversity, right? Even diversity within the community.
But that broke that person's heart.
Yeah, it does. It does. I see these gay festivals that are hiring DJs, and instead of hiring from within their own communities for people who are struggling like myself, they'll hire somebody else who is outside of the community to come and work those events. Creative
people take things to heart. Like I'm a person that takes everything to heart. Like that's first. So to me, on everything, because we're creative, that's just the way we think. Like you work with puppetry, you do with this and that. We're creative people, so we have something that's we're attached to our career emotionally as well. So it's not just great, make money off of it, but it's not, to me, creativeness and something that I love comes first before money. Money is obviously the secondary to me. If it was the other way around, I would have been filthy rich right now. Rich.
That's why I do what I do. Basically, my company was about marrying all the things that I'm passionate about, which is music, entertainment, and education. Gotcha. And that's what my business company model is all about, is providing those services. Yeah. Whatever that looks like, that's what I'm providing, essentially. I'm here to help create beautiful memories for families and clients. I'm here to educate you if you need education on certain topics like, LGBTQ, or in particular the transgender experience, so that's what I'm here for. And I love that I'm able to do that. My fear right now, because of the competitiveness of our market at the moment, that I might have to look for a job elsewhere just to pay the mortgage, and that's been the hardest thing for me to have to deal with, so I'm struggling and fighting through it right now and pivoting, which is why now I'm considering bringing my prices down somewhat to see if it
you might have to drop it down that $40,
so
20, 30,
or something. But it's just one of those things. I work with a lot of independent contractors also, just to make my events happen, and that's the other area that I have to work on. So no, everybody has their thing, their niche. And if you can hold on to that niche, that's really what sells you to the next person. That's it. And that's one of the reasons I've been able to stay in business for 10 years. So, and I try to buy into that.
And that's what I think keeps you within. What we've learned from this episode is that if you're unique and you keep what you do, and you have that personal attachment to it, and the client knows that, they will hire you again, even at a higher rate. The thing is that if you're competing with somebody else, then that's going to be a problem. And you have to make sure they know what features you're adding, what value you're adding in order to demand the extra $100.
Well, with my client, the value they get is me, essentially, and the over 30 plus years of me in this industry, knowing how to work with their families
Yeah,
when I come to their events. So
that's
hopefully
it.
they find the value in that, and that's all we can hope for.
Well, Jessica, tell people how they can reach you. Tell them your website, social media, email address, phone number, all the goodies. So anybody that wants to hire Jessica, which I approve as a DJ and as everything. I do approve of her. Hire her as your DJ.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Tell us all your
So
information.
yeah, JesiMixx, JesiMixx at JesiMixx. You can find that on Instagram. But my company is eventpartypro.com. So if you go to my website, it's there. Also on all the social media places, Event Party Pro. You'll see it. And if you see my face there, it's my company, because I think there's another company that's Event Party Pros with an S.
With an S, but you're with, yeah.
I'm somebody, but I think they're out of business at this point. So I think it's all there. So, but
So I don't have to worry about it.
I don't think I have to worry about that anymore. So yeah, so you can, and really, if you Google Jessica Lamb, I pop up. And if you're
Right.
interested in seeing what I do for the LGBTQ plus community, just Google Jessica Lamb. You'll find my Larry King video. You'll find my
Nice.
website, jessicalamb.com. And I educate too. So I've been to like Best Buy, I've been to
Right.
Macy's, and I teach on this topic of sensitivity training with this community. So there you have it.
I'm impressed. I'm gonna check out. I mean, you blew me away today with what that reveal you told me. I would have never known, but I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you did that, because now I have more affection for you and more in love with you, because of what you do and what you do for the community. I like people like that.
Thank you.
I love
appreciate
it.
And
So-
listen, I know you're in Tamarack. We should meet at Skyline for lunch one day.
Let's do that. If we're close by. I don't know where you live, but if we're close by, let's meet up. Yes.
I'm in the Springs area, but I look for any excuse to get to Skyline Chili. So
Okay, so next week, let's line it up. Anytime next week. All right.
You got it.
All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Jessica Lamb, JesiMixx. Make sure you guys check out all her info on social media. And I'm glad you were with us.
Thanks for having me.
Take
Appreciate
care. Bye.
You too.